Welcome into the Toronto Sports Rush right here on the Bet Rivers Network. EJ Hradek here, and it's Mondays with McGuire. Pierre McGuire joining us now. And Pierre, it has been kind of a crazy, really, when you think about the Leafs, it's been a crazy 3 months or so. It seems like it's been a longer period of time with all the changes, all the moves. But it seems like it's settled in a little bit now, and the league has settled in. And, as we were getting ready to go here, you mentioned the big story around the league right now is Connor Hellebuyck's situation. It seems like there's a potential for him to go to the Buffalo Sabres. What do you make of that?
It sure seems like that's where he wants to go. It sure seems like Buffalo has a desire to do it. They've already traded Devon Levi out to Edmonton, EJ. It would make a lot of sense. I mean, when you look at it, it's not that it's a knock on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but he would clearly have to be part of the deal with Winnipeg if, in fact, they were getting Hellebuck. The one thing I'd say is Buffalo's got a tremendous amount of artillery, as you know. Both their American Hockey League roster in Rochester is very strong. Their NHL roster is strong with some really good young players, especially at the center ice position. So they're a little bit redundant there. If you look at the organizational need long-term for Winnipeg, it is down the middle and also with some creativity offensively. And they need some depth in goal if Hellebuck is traded. So I think the marriage actually works pretty well. And the people I've spoken to all have been telling me this for about a month and a half now, that don't be surprised if Hellebuck's move to the Eastern Conference. And it goes to something you and I have talked about and Kyle have talked about a lot. There's this arms race in the East, DJ, and I know you're right in the center of it in New York and New Jersey. But, you look at Florida, you look at what's gone on in Tampa, you look at what's gone on, obviously, in Toronto, you look at what's gone on around the entire East. There's this arms race, and everybody's trying to keep up.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. People probably feel like it's just wide open right now in the NHL. It's pretty tight, pretty tense. Teams feel they have a chance to win. So this is what happens. I guess in this situation with Hellebuck, I'm like you. I've been hearing this for a while now. I guess the two sides just haven't been able to come together on a deal. And if I'm the Winnipeg Jets, you said it. Their problem is through the middle, and they're probably looking for somebody who can play center in return. Maybe that's the holdup.
Well, one of the things that's interesting, we still don't know what the price point is for Cole Perfetti. That's something they desperately need to find out what's going to happen. The other part is we saw this weekend where Viggo Bjork, and I know the player and I know the family really well, he's already told Djurgården he's not coming back. He's going to sign with Winnipeg. Viggo's a really good player. Everybody knows that. That's why he was drafted in the top 10 this summer. That being said, he's still a really young guy, EJ. And I watched him train a lot in the spring, and I saw him play at the World Championships. Unbelievable hockey sense, brilliant mind for the game. He's still physically not ready, I don't think, for an 84-game schedule. So they still have need. You look at Buffalo, and I don't want to scare any of the young players that are there, but they got a lot of good young players, especially down the middle. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what Jarmo Kekalainen decides to do if he can get together with Shovel-Dayoff in Winnipeg and come up with a deal.
You mentioned Bjork and a talented young kid drafted, I believe it was 8th overall this year by the Jets, and the idea of having him come here. Do you think he would be a better candidate maybe to go play in the NCAA for a year? Because if he's going to be here and he's not going to be on the Jets, he'd be in the American League, and it's a tough league, the American League.
The American League's way tougher than people think. Everybody says, oh, it's the minor leagues. I never use that to describe the American Hockey League. I've spent a lot of time around it over the course of my career, and it's a hard league to play in. It's a hard league to coach in. And more than anything else, it's an unbelievable torture test physically and mentally. It's not nearly as easy as what a lot of people think. If you're a point-a-game player in the American Hockey League, you're one heck of a hockey player. I'll tell you that right now. Even if you're a half a point-a-game player in the American Hockey League, you're a really good player. It's not nearly as refined or as clean as what you would find in the National Hockey League. Here's the one thing. Playing in the SHL is really good. As you know, I know how much you follow it. And Djurgården's a top-end program. Like I spent the month of May over in Sweden, and I watched all these teams train and practice. And that's the one thing that stands out. Their development of young players is phenomenal. And so I don't know if he had to go to the NCAA. Would have been a good step for him? Probably. But playing with men in the SHL is pretty darn good, EJ.
Maybe just stay there then, Pierre.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe it would have been better just for him to stay for one more year.
Yeah, it's always, I always get, I'm interested in the development of these young guys because over many years, both you and I have seen it for a long time. if you're the Winnipeg Jets, you want to develop this guy appropriately, and you're concerned that if you rush him, could be bad news, especially for a smaller guy.
I love the Kenny Holland thing that he used to do in Detroit all the time. I prefer my players to be overripe than underdeveloped.
Yeah.
And it was the mantra for, the Red Wings forever and ever and ever, especially after 93 when Scotty got there in 93, 94. It totally changed the dynamic. Kenny was good at it. Devellano was good at it. Holland was good at it. They had patience. Jonathan Ericsson is a perfect example of that. Nicky Kronwall's a good example of that. Henrik Zetterberg's a good example of that. Pavel Datsyuk, all these young guys, overripe rather than underdeveloped. And you look at the runs that they had. Maybe the only guy you could say that got rushed, and he really didn't get rushed, was Nicky Lidstrom. And you're talking about one of the best players in the history of the game in his position. Yeah. But the rest of them all had to do their penance. It's a lot like, and you know this from where you live, Lou Yu in New Jersey. The only player that I could think of that never went to Lou Yu was Scotty Gomez. Brodeur went through Lou Yu. Brian Giunta went through Lou Yu. And Scotty Niedermayer never did. Yeah. Niedermayer never played in the American Hockey League.
Yeah, well, I mean, those teams that you mentioned, the good news for them is they had really talented NHL teams. So it was hard to make those teams, and it made it easier to send guys back. In the case of Winnipeg here, desperate for years for a second center, right? There is that anxiousness maybe to try to get them there. That's always the concern for me, is that push.
I love how you phrase that, because I think you're spot on. You couldn't be more correct about it. The other thing that's interesting about all this, the American Hockey League team for the Winnipeg Jets is right in Winnipeg.
That's right. Yeah.
They're right in the same building. So they could keep a close eye on them. Maybe that's part of the thought process too. But they've been urgent for a long time to get a second center. They've been very urgent for a long time.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Leafs in the last couple of minutes we got here today. It's been, as I say, things have quieted down a little bit. I wanted to get your thought on Easton Cowan, because he was part of that Marlies team that went on the run, won the American Hockey League championship. Where do you see him this year? It seems like, that he's ready maybe to take another step. Where do you think Easton Cowan fits into this new kind of look Leafs lineup?
But I'd be really excited if I were a Leaf fan is to see the internal competition between Gavin McKenna and Easton Cowan.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it's going to be. I don't believe they're trading Matthew Nyes, and if they do, I'd be very surprised. So if you look at it, they're kind of stockpiling left wingers with Easton Cowan, with Gavin McKenna, and obviously with Matthew Nyes. Matthew Nyes can play on both sides, and I think McKenna probably could too. I think Easton Cowan's probably better suited for the left. But I think Easton had a phenomenal playoff. I watched a lot of those games. Hats off, by the way, to John Gruden and the entire staff down there with the Marlies. They did a fantastic job. That is a hard trophy to win. Yep. The Calder Cup is a very, very difficult road to run, and those guys ran it fantastically well. I think that was a great torture test for Easton. I think it prepares him for a full NHL season this year. He'll be a contributor, whether he's on the first power play or the second power play. He'll be on the power play. I don't think he'll beat out McKenna on the power play. McKenna's power play presence is phenomenal, EJ. Yeah. I think that's what's going to blow the fans away, how good he is on the power play. He's really, really effective, not just as a gunner, but as a playmaker too.
Yeah, he really sees the ice. I think that's the thing that has stuck out to me about watching him play, is he sees windows open and close before most people do. And we'll see if he can bring that skill to Toronto at an early age in his first year. As it'll be fascinating to watch him continue to develop and unfold there under the bright lights. Let me ask you about Morgan Rielly, because he was going to be traded, then he wasn't going to be traded. It seems like John Scheik is like, hey, if he's on the team on opening night, we're okay with that. What are you hearing on Morgan Rielly, and what's your thoughts on his future in Toronto, if he even has one at this point?
I don't know how much of a future he has long term. I think short term he might, because I don't think they're just going to give the player away for nothing. I think once they're in the marketplace, once there's a sense of urgency for teams to add more depth, especially in the middle part of the year, and we're looking at an 84-game schedule, not 82. Guys get hurt a lot more, longer season, more physical breakdowns. That's when I think the value for a player like Morgan might be enhanced. I hope he's having a tremendous summer of training. I could see where a team like maybe San Jose down the road, maybe a team like Edmonton down the road, maybe a team like Anaheim down the road. I could see where those teams might have significant interest in him, but I don't think it's something that happens now. I think it's something that happens later on, if in fact he's traded at all. Morgan still has game. I just think people have used him as kind of like the point to point at and say, that's why we're no good because he's no good.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. He is good.
Yeah.
Maybe I use the Michael Matheson thing all the time in Montreal, EJ. Think about Michael for 1 second. Drafted by Florida in the first round, has a hard time making it, gets moved to Pittsburgh, has a hard time solidifying himself, goes to Montreal. The beginning of his career in Montreal is okay, but he's on the first power play. And then all of a sudden, this guy named Lane Hudson comes in. Lane Hudson takes over the first power play. And EJ, all of a sudden, Michael Matheson is one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league because he's not overstressed with his positioning and what he has to do. I think Morgan Rielly could be in the very same situation.
Yeah, Matheson is such a good skater too. I mean, that's the thing about him. It's good to see things going well for him in Montreal. All right, one more thing for you because you mentioned Anaheim. What did you make of the decision to match Leo Carlsson? I mean, I thought that's the way it was going. That's the way it did go. What did you make of it?
I'm with you 100%, EJ. I thought that's the way it was going to go right from the start. And the biggest thing to me is I don't think people understand how much money the Samueli family has and the patents that Dr. Samueli owns. He's an amazingly fluid person financially. That wasn't going to intimidate him at all. I think that was a miscalculation by the Flyers. I totally understand why they would try to do that. It makes sense. Leo Carlsson's a great player and everything else. The agent, Matt Cater, no problem with that. I understand how he does his business. And for Pat Verbeek, I think it was a good lesson. I think it was a good lesson in terms of if you know you got a solid asset, negotiate with it that asset early and get the deal done early before the marketplace can get involved and create a big problem for you. Once the marketplace gets involved, you kind of lose your leverage a lot. I remember saying this, EJ, and I think I talked to you about it a long time ago. I will never forget when Montreal Canadiens, under a previous management group, decided to bridge PK Subban.
Yeah.
And I've had a radio show in Montreal for almost 25 years now.
Yeah.
And I just said, this is unacceptable. It's going to cost this team tens of millions of dollars, and they probably won't be able to keep PK Subban. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. You can't bridge players coming out of entry level that you think are going to be stars. Because if you do, this is the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah. Hey, Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, the same kind of thing happened in Calgary. Same kind of thing happened there. So Leo Carlsson stays put in Anaheim. That's going to do it for us this morning. Pierre, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you, EJ. I will. Thank you very much. I apologize today. I just want everybody at home to know I was a little late to the party because usually we do this a little later. I didn't read the instructions. That's on me. I'll pay the fine. I'll pay the fine. Don't worry. Okay.
Well, we'll send you the note in the mail, and you can figure it out with Brian Monzo. I don't think it'll be a big issue. But this has been Mondays with McGuire right here on the Toronto Sports Rush. You see us on the Bet Rivers Network. Remember, like, subscribe. We always have great content for you. Have a great day, everybody.